How's it going today, fellas? Today, I just want to talk about why I choose Christianity. I think that's a question that a lot of Christians need to answer on their own, is to really look at themselves and say, why do I choose this? I don't think a lot of people really think of it that way. People may ask you, why are you a Christian? Why do you believe this? But before people do that, you need to think on it on your own and have an answer for that. For me, I grew up in the church. I could say I've been a Christian my whole life. Obviously, there have been moments where I haven't acted like it, but that goes for everyone. So why did I continue to choose Christianity? Is it just because my parents want me to? Is it just because I grew up in the church? There are a lot of different, things that could be the answer. And, if it's something like, well, it's just because I've grown up in church, it's all I know, I think you need a better answer for that. And that would have been my answer probably from the beginning of my life till about 8th or 9th grade. That would be the reason that I believed in Christianity, is just because, my parents did. And so, naturally, as a young person, you kind of believe what your parents say. A lot of people have influences on you. And I'm glad they were, and they brought me up in that way. I'm very glad, and I'm very blessed to have that growing up, because I know a lot of people don't get that. So, it's a blessing for me. But it's also can be dangerous if you just look at it as, yeah, my parents are Christian, so I'm Christian. And I don't think a lot of people would necessarily describe themselves that way, but I know there are a lot of people like that. So, the important question you need to ask yourself is why? Why do I choose this? And that's something that I've asked myself multiple times in the past weeks, months. It's why am I deciding to change my entire livelihood, the way that I live? Why am I changing it? For me, it's very simple. I know that Jesus Christ is my Savior. I know that He died on the cross for me. And I know that He loves me and He cares about everything that I do. Those are the reasons, the big reasons. Now let me expand on those reasons, because I would say they're pretty basic things that a lot of people say when they describe why they're Christian. If you look at the Bible's teachings and what God, tells us about in this great, guide, handbook, right? The Bible, what He teaches us in there, it's all very good. And if you follow His teachings throughout your entire life, you're going to live a very fruitful and successful life. And I want that. I want a successful life. I want a beautiful wife. I want beautiful children. I want to have all these good things the Bible talks about. And so having that is really important for me, and that's what I want. That's what I want in my life. And then another thing, I think a lot of people may disagree with me on this, but I think there's a lot of evidence in the Bible, a lot of evidence in the world that Christianity is true, that God is real. And, a lot of people like to use science to disprove God. I think you can use science to prove God in a lot of different ways. I'm not a very big science person. I've never really liked it. But, just looking at geological features, you can all place this stuff back to the flood, which was just a crazy event. Insane. Continued to reign over all the earth for 40 straight days. That's going to cause a lot of geological changes. And, you look at the Grand Canyon, for example, atheist scientists will just say, they formed over millions and millions of years. Well, if you actually look at the rock layers, and I'm not very polished on the science stuff, so I'm not going to use like good terminology for this, but the way the rock layers are formed in a certain way, it only could have happened in a very short amount of time, right? And 40 days is not a long time in the grand scheme of things, right? So the flood basically changing like how the earth is shaped, all the mountains, all of everything, right? Basically the flood formed the earth as it is today. And so I look at all the science stuff and I think that is incredible, that God gives us this beautiful earth and everything, you know, to our advantage to really look at. And, you know, you look at the stars at night and you wonder, you know, how is this stuff so beautiful? You know, who created this stuff? And so, you know, you have those questions, right? And if you're not a Christian, you may wonder, you know, how can this stuff come about on its own? Well, it can't. You know, matter can't create matter. That's just a fact. The world could not have created itself because everything needs a creator. And so God is there to create. And people will come at you after that question, and, you know, it's a great follow-up question. They say, who created God? But God is eternal, right? You can't create something eternal because, well, you can't create something that's eternal because it never ends. It also never had a beginning. It is there forever. And it's really hard to wrap our minds around the word eternal because, I mean, everything we really have here on earth is finite, right? Even our world, I mean, it's running out of energy. It's nothing that we need to worry about. But, you know, in a couple billion years or whenever, it's like the earth is gonna dry up. But anyway, like, everything on this earth is finite. The car that I'm in right now, finite. It's gonna rust up and, you know, I'm not gonna be able to drive it anymore. Like, there's so many things that are finite that aren't eternal. God is eternal. So it is impossible for him to be created by anything because he is the only thing that has lasted forever and will always last forever. He is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, all these terms. So you cannot create God because he is eternal. I've probably said that like 4 or 5 times. I'm trying to like find a better way to say it, but that's just really the best way to say it, right? And, you know, you can't really argue with that either. And if you continue to argue, I think you're just being a little bit arrogant. But that's another reason why I believe in Christianity and why I believe in God. And then I look at the philosophy side of things, and I think all of these other religions, all of these other worldviews, the way they believe, it's like, you know, there's not a lot of hope there. I'm not super familiar with like Buddhism and, you know, that kind of, you know, Eastern pantheistic religions, but I know there's a lot of, you know, reincarnation, like they reincarnate to different animals. Karma obviously is used, and so it's like you live to build up your karma, and so that you can reincarnate into something, you know, very, very good instead of, I don't know, like a chicken. I don't really know how like the Eastern pantheistic rankings work for reincarnation and like what's good and what's bad, but like, you know, that's what they believe, right? They believe in reincarnation and all this stuff, but like, what kind of hope does that give you? Right? You're just gonna live your life and reincarnate something else. Like, what is the point then? To be a better animal? Like, only humans have souls. Only humans can think like about, you know, their future and all this crazy stuff that we're able to think about, right? And like, other animals think, obviously, but they don't have souls. they don't have, like, I'm sorry, but like your dog is probably not going to be in heaven. Sorry to break it to you. But like, there's so many things that you have to really look at in this philosophy standpoint and say, well, like, why do they think this here? You look at nihilism, for example. It's the most depressing, I think, either nihilism or existentialism, right? It's like, these worldviews, they're so sad, depressing. Like, if you don't believe in God, okay, why would you want to live a life where you know that nothing matters, so you just say, heck with it, and you live the most depressing lifestyle because you believe that nothing matters? I kind of understand if you say, well, nothing matters, so I'm going to live however I want to live. Okay. It makes sense if you really don't believe in a God. But at the same time, I think we all have that belief in some sort of being that is not of this world. A lot of people will cry out to God or some other being and scream, why? Something terrible happens in their life. They're like, why, God? And I've done that before too. But why are you asking why to something that you don't believe exists? That sounds pretty crazy, right? You don't believe in something, and you're calling out to it, asking questions. I think secretly we all kind of have this belief, right, in eternal being. And, you may call me crazy for that, but that is something that I do believe. So, there's all this crazy stuff that you can get into philosophy-wise, and luckily I've had a lot of teaching on this, and I know a lot about kind of what these different belief systems think and what they believe and stuff. And so what I've come to find out is that Christianity is just the most plausible for me. It's the most hopeful for sure, because I know that I can do bad things, either intentionally or unintentionally, and I know that Jesus has saved me from what I've done. Jesus will forgive me in all of my sins that I do, and that's not an excuse to continue to sin, as Christians know. But it's really awesome to have that hope in your life, to know that there is something after life. There is a meaning to this life, and it is to make disciples, to spread the gospel. What I'm doing right now, this is spreading the gospel. And that is the point, really, of my life, is to be able to do this, to be able to talk about God and worship God and glorify God, all of these things. That is the point of life. It's not to get rich. It's not to attain the most amount of material things, because those things go away. Going back to the eternity thing, it's like, no matter how nice of a car I can get, guess what? It's going to rust up at some point. And, what is the point of that, right? You put your value in the wrong things. If you put your value in how much money you get, it can all go away in an instant. If you put your value in the car you drive, in the house you live in, there could be, you could get in a wreck at any point in your life, or there could be a tornado, a hurricane, any natural disaster, just destroy your house like that. And guess what? You have nothing. There's so many things of this world that you can put yourself in and really put your value in that. But at the end of the day, these things go away. All these materialistic things, the things of the world, these are worldly possessions. But the thing that will keep you grounded, and the thing that you put, if you put God at the forefront of your life, and you really think, and you put your value in Him over anything else this world, you are going to be fulfilled. You're going to find peace. If you put your value in what other people think of you, guess what? You're probably going to do things of this world. You're probably going to sin a lot more than you would if you put your value in Jesus. Because if you find validation in other people, all people of this world just naturally like sinning more. They like to do the sinful things. It's more pleasurable to them. Well, it's more pleasurable to everyone. But to find true joy and peace and the fruits of your life is to give up things of this world, to make those sacrifices and say, I'm going to trust in you, God. I'm going to follow your commandments no matter what happens, no matter what I think is more enjoyable and pleasurable. And I've seen that through other people in my life. They've given up a lot of things in their life, and I am so happy for them. I could not be more happy for them in my life. And that's what I want for everyone else. That's why I choose Christianity. That's why I'm a Christian. That's why I think God and Jesus is my Savior. It is my belief. And I could not be more happy that I'm a follower of God, because it is the most hopeful thing that I could have in my life. It's more hopeful than believing in anything of this world, putting value in anything of this world. I know that at the end of my time, if I died right now, I'd enter into the kingdom of heaven for eternity. I know that Jesus has saved me, and that, me putting my faith in Him is the most important thing that I could do in this world. That's where I put my value in, and I could not be more happy to do that. And so, my goal with this video is for it to reach anyone who needs to hear it. I don't care how many people that is. One person, if I get one view and that person needs it, I'm happy. If it gets 1 billion views, the whole world sees it, obviously I'll be happy. But I'm not doing it for the fame or for the fortune or anything. This video may get 50 views, more than likely, maybe even less than that. I don't care. All I care about is my eternal destination and everyone else's eternal destination. That is what I put my value in, is to lead people to Christ, because I have found my peace in it. I know that it's true. I know that the God of the Bible is true. And I know that Jesus' sacrifice has saved me and everyone else. And that is my why. So if y'all made it to the end of this video, I really do appreciate y'all listening to me absolutely ramble. I could talk about this for hours, but I need to keep your attention for, a little less than that. It's kind of hard to have your attention for this long. I really do appreciate you watching. Have any questions, obviously, comment or something. But I really do appreciate it. God bless all of you. I hope you took this to heart. So